Yes, that's right. It's Joe here live for Joyrider TV, back with some more Q&A. I hope you're ready for this because we are steaming in with another great session. No big topics like the previous weeks because, to be honest, they took up most of the sessions the last couple of weeks. So for this one, we're back to a sort of more usual format. I have got some preloaded questions, and of course I'm hoping to get some questions from everybody in the live chat who's able to be here live. If you're not able to be here live and you are watching later on, then if you have got any questions relating to your catamaran sailing, then do put them in the comments so then I can respond to them next week. That would be great. I hope you've been enjoying all the content that's been coming on Joyrider TV. Yes, this week the big one was finally, I feel like I made a bit of traction on the Hobie 14 with the high wind tacking. And this isn't just for Hobie 14 sailors, by the way. Whatever you're sailing, if you can use a tacking technique which will be successful on a Hobie 14, then it means whatever boat you're sailing, your tacking is going to be better, because to get the 14 through the tack in the strong wind requires a very high-end technique, which if you then apply that high-end technique to, let's say, your Formula 18, which is quite an easy boat to tack, let's face it, but if you can use really good technique, your exit speeds are going to be that much better. It's really going to help you if you're sailing on the race course or anywhere else, or whatever other type of, not just catamaran, multi-hull. So I think the 14 technique good on a trimaran as well. Yeah, why not? Yeah, so there we go. So if you missed that, check that one out. That is on the Joyrider TV channel. And we've got coming up on Sunday another new video, which is on the topic of how to sail faster solo, which you can apply a lot of this to how to sail faster with more than one person on the boat as well. Thanks to Cucks Ollie in there with a super sticker. Great to have you on board there, Ollie. Yeah, I think that probably ties in quite nicely with checking in with who's checking in already. So yeah, we've got Ollie on board in northern Germany, wishing everybody a great day. We've got Leland Lee in Clearwater, Florida. I'm glad you made it out the other side, Lee. Little bit worried when you weren't in the live chat last week after the hurricane that had a good go at Florida, but I'm hoping that everything is all right with you and your fleet. We've got Hanny on board in Amsterdam. Hello, Hanny. Always a pleasure to see you in the live chat. Okay, so first preloaded question, and this is one that I like these sort of questions because they make me think about how I could do things differently or better. But this is from Kuba, who sails, I believe it's a Nacra Evolution F18. I think it's in Poland. And Kuba's question was, because on the modern F18s with the deck sweeper sail, the deck sweeper sail is the set. Can I draw here? Yes, is if this is the mast, this is the hull, is the sail that's not quite going to do it. Hold on, let's do this a bit better. Is the sail that comes all the way down to the trampoline. That would be the back of the boat there. It has a curve. This is a terrible drawing, by the way. They're usually better than this. It has a curved boom on one side of the sail, which means that, like I do quite a lot of the time, mounting one of the cameras on the boom, it's not actually possible to do that in the same way with this curved boom. Not only that, but the curved boom on one side of the sail is generally supported by a bit of elastic that goes up to the diamond wires to stop it from falling up against the sail, which would distort the the shape of the sail. So for that reason, we're having to use different camera mounting methods on the modern F18. So I thought, let's assume this is a modern F18 and let's see if we can, how many different camera angles we could get on an F18. All right, so we could start with the most obvious. Yeah, so let's start with the most obvious. If this is us sailing the boat, most obvious is going to be camera is going to be a red square, is going to be camera on the head. Quite obvious. So yeah, we'll start off obvious and we'll go less obvious as we go through. So the next one would be camera on the end of the bowsprit or spinnaker pole, like this. Great shots from the end of the spinnaker pole. You could even have an extension, an extra, like I would usually use an old tiller extension for these sort of things, but you could put an extension piece taped to the bowsprit. And when you're using an extension piece, so if this is our extension piece, I would make sure you've got a good 75 centimeters of overlap. So if you're putting this on the up against the bowsprit so the camera can go on the end, a good 75 centimeters of overlap with and I would tie it using elastic shock cord like what we use for the trapeze, and then that would go further forwards on the boat than the end of the bowsprit, and it just gives you that much more width, and you get to see the whole of the bowsprit, the spinnaker pole, and you can see the front of the spinnaker. And in fact, if you are going to be flying the spinnaker, it is essential that you use an extension pole on the end, because otherwise your camera, if it's going to be on top of the spinnaker pole, is going to interfere with the spinnaker, which you don't want when you go to pull the spinnaker up, and it won't go to the end of the pole because someone's put a camera there. That isn't going to be very helpful. The other thing we can do, if we just introduce a side view as well, so where can our side view be? Can it be down here? Yeah, I think so. Just have to check that it is actually visible to the camera. So if this is our bowsprit here, so we could also have, for a different view, you know, if you're kind of going out one camera and you want to get as many different shots as possible, so then later on you can put an edit together which looks really good, maybe set it to music or something, then another good one is to have a stick like this, or like an extension piece coming down from the bowsprit, with the camera looking back at the boat. Now that looks very cool. You don't need the extension piece for that as well, because it's underneath the boat. So very cool. And you can do more with the bowsprit as well. So if these are our bridle wires here, then behind the bridle wires, as long as it's not going to affect the jib system, then we could put the camera just behind. Or again, as long as it's not going to affect the jib system or anywhere along here. And yeah, it's quite a favorite of mine now, especially if I'm sailing the FX1, the single hander. I like to put the camera on the bowsprit a bit further back, because that gets a really nice shot of what's going on the boat, but you see the whole boat. Yeah, it's very nice picture. Another one like we had on the when was it, on the recent sort of Bad Boy 95 videos. Oh yes, just seeing you there, Richard. Yes, please do. If you've got any questions, just put them in there, and once I've finished with our first preloaded question, I will do my best to answer your questions. Okay, so next place to put a camera, not quite as easy to draw it on, but if we have a sticky mount on either of the bows, in fact, we'll just draw it all on one side, then you could have a camera there, and this is going to be which way it's looking. So these are going to look backwards that way. In fact, they're all looking at the action. Very nice. Okay, continuing around the boat. So we could use, as indicated, there was a video that I put out, I think it was last Sunday, which was about different camera mounting ideas. So could be a pole like this. It needs to be pretty long, needs to be at least, how long would that need to be? Is it two? So if an F18 is 2 meters 60 wide, half of that 1 meter 30, yeah, it needs to be at least 2 meters long. But if we look at the front of the boat, here's the dolphin striker, and then we attach this extra pole to the dolphin striker in the middle, and then coming out the side of the boat. So this pole would basically be like here, coming out of the side like this, and then the camera on the end of the pole. And this has got to be my personal favorite at the moment, because it gets a really good close-up of the people sailing the boat and what their facial expressions are. And especially if there's, for me, some talking going on, it's nice to see that bit of talking actually coming out of one's mouth. Okay, so that is a good start. Another one would be, this is a bit of a curveball, this one, can't really draw it on, but actually putting a camera on the tiller extension, which, so if this is the tiller extension, and in fact I just got this mount today, this is a Telesin, which same brand as this actually, which, you know, I am guilty sometimes of shopping a bit at Temu, and I actually got this from Temu. It was only, I don't know, €5 or something. But one like this just kind of goes around anything, clips onto itself. So if this is your tiller extension, put your camera on here, obviously, so it's on the top, and then and then that is going to point at you all of the time. So while you're steering, you've got a camera pointing at you at all times. Very nice. Yeah. This same mount could be used also on, if this is the tiller connecting bar, there it is. We put a camera on there. it would need to be a little bit of a distance away from the center, because otherwise it would interfere with your tiller extension when you're coming to tack. All right, so continuing. Now, this is the curve ball, and it's literally the curve ball because we've got a curved boom. So if this is our curved boom, like this, it's not going to work to put a pole, a bit of old tiller extension alongside as an extension off the back of the boom. But what we can do, and this is going to work quite nicely because of that curve, it'll take a bit of trial and error to do it, but is to take your pole and basically shove it into the end of the boom as far as you can, experimenting with different thicknesses of pole to put in there, maybe an old tiller extension, maybe again a top section of a windsurfing mast if the boom is wide enough to take it. And then so this pole will stick out of the end, and it will be slightly asymmetric, like it's not going to be exactly the same for both tacks. So sorry, that one will end up being like here behind the boat, because I think that chase cam shot is really nice. So if you're using a regular action cam, you'd need to set it to its widest setting. If you are using a 360 camera like the Insta360 or a GoPro Max, then that is a great spot to put it because you'll catch all the action. So like with a 360 camera, you can choose to have it pointing at the people on the boat. If there's some action going on behind you, you can have a look behind on the leeward side or absolutely everywhere. Very nice. So that is a great shot to get a lot of the action. Where else could you put a camera on the boat? Of course, you could, I can't remember who it was, who I was talking to about this, but you could put the camera up the mast. Yeah. So up the mast on an F18 type boat, or basically anything that's not a non-comp tip Hobie 16, it does require a little bit of kind of like, I'd call it bodge work to get your camera mounted nicely up the mast. One way of doing it would be to take your camera, fit it to something. What have we got here? Okay, nothing quite appropriate just here, but fit it to something that is going to have it like this, and then attach it to the top of the mainsail so it gets pulled up the mast. One good one that you could do even is, I'm just sort of thinking out loud here a little bit, but is if we've got, here's our mainsail, there's the mast, top batten, maybe the second top batten of the mainsail, and if you took some sort of like the chain plate, like the stay adjuster chain plate, which looks like this with the holes in it that you'd usually find at the bottom of the shroud, and actually put the end which is open inside the batten pocket, then tie the batten in. Once this is in, then attach the camera. So we've got this stay adjuster here like this coming out, and you could basically do this on any of the battens on the mainsail, and really experiment with the angle that you're going to look at. Maybe if you put it too high, you'll just get too much sail in the shot. But if you maybe put it on the next one, you'd get a bit more of the action. If you have it looking straight down, that could be very cool indeed. Yeah, you could see both people from above trapezing on the boat. All right, this is another really cheap one for you. We're now double trapezing. He's got one on the head as well. Now, what about, I hear you cry, what about the chest cam? Now, the chest cam doesn't work so well for what we're doing, because if we're using the trapeze, all that the chest cam gets is a close-up of all of the trapeze gear. So that doesn't work quite so well. Somebody else mentioned, what about, I have actually got one, is a harness mount stick, basically on the back of your trapeze. On the back of your trapeze harness, you actually have a stick coming out like that with the camera on the end. Gets a really cool shot. I haven't actually used it for cat sailing. I used it last, was in an e-foiling video. But that gets a view from basically behind you. I would recommend, if you've got a similar hairstyle to me, make sure you are wearing a hat. I think it just looks a little bit, makes you look slightly younger. Perhaps that would be it. So there's quite a few options. Now, one more option which would work quite nicely, I have tried this in the past, is to, and I did a bit of research with this on the 16 as well, or but on a boat which has the diamond wires. So the diamond wires are, for those of you who don't know, if we've got spreaders on the mast like this, and these wires that basically form the shape of a diamond, then what we can do, if this is looking at the mast from above, I hope this is big enough to be able to be seen. There's the mast. Is if we could use one of these kind of, have I got one here? Yeah, like one of these kind of sticky mount things, put that onto the side of the mast, but so that it's behind the diamond wire, because then that will mean it's out of the way of the jib and the spinnaker halyard. It will be out of the way of everything, and you could actually have the camera on the side of the mast looking at the people on the trapeze, kind of down a bit. Of course, when you're mounting such a thing, you just need to be mindful that the mast does rotate, and adjust the camera angle accordingly. And I think if you are doing a theatrical edit, then don't be afraid to get a bit of action, stop the boat, adjust the cameras, think, all right, how about this? If you've got, if you are well, I think whichever brand of camera you're using, on the appropriate app that you'd have on your phone, you can actually see what the camera is seeing through the app on your phone. So as long as your phone's in a dry bag, then or it's waterproof, then just, and important telephone security there, put that round your wrist so you don't drop it in the water. Very sensible. Then you can actually have a preview of what your camera is seeing. Make sure the angle is absolutely bang on before you then start sailing again. With the modern cameras and the juicy SD cards, you can film for a very long time, like a good couple of hours, or about an hour, let's say, with the battery life. Is it about an hour? 45 minutes. Yeah. In fact, I'm haggling myself down now. The higher quality that you set the camera at, the less time you will be able to film for. And that goes for frame rate as well. If you're filming at a higher frame rate, because maybe you want to get some really sweet slow-mo stuff, then again, it's going to eat through the battery quicker. That's why on most of my cameras, the normal cameras, I film at 1080, 24 frames per second. And it's only in the new camera, the 12, because I know the batteries are really good. These ones, good batteries, that I can film in 4K on that one because I trust the battery to last as long as the other batteries that I'm using in the older cameras. Okay, so I think that covers quite a few angles there. Something I've just made ready to be tested. Also, this is a good one. You'll like this. Is I've taken a small buoy, that's buoy to everyone in America, like this. I've put a heavy weight attached to it. This seems really simple. And then onto the buoy at the top, camera. Oh yeah. And to make it easier for me, I've used the 360 camera on the buoy, so that it doesn't matter which way it's pointing. And the idea with that one is so that I can actually get it between the bows of the boat, or maybe so it passes underneath the sailors. Very cool. But I think between the hulls, very cool as well. Yeah, exciting times there. Just waiting for that day, because as we are moving out of the summer, the good days with the good wind do become a little bit less frequent. Cheers. Okay, so there we go. I think that is quite a few options for where to stick a camera on the boat. Also, yeah, I just had a delivery from Temu today, which I got this from, which I'm really keen to try that out. But I also got some of these, very handy. I did mention in the camera mounting chat that if you're mounting a camera on the boom and you don't have a 360 camera, then these are quite good. They rotate, so you can, when you tack or jibe, you can just rotate this, get your camera pointing the right way, and then rotate it back the other way when you tack again. That's what they look at. Like, these are about €5 on these sort of websites. There we go. All right, magic. Right, I'm just going to check in with everybody who is checking in. All right, we've got Paul on board. Hello, Paul. Paul's in Northern Italy. Great to have you with us, Paul. All right, Richard is with us from Lake Michigan. Nice. We've got Eric on board in Florida, I should think. Eric's going to watch as much as he can. Regatta hosting, multitasking at the moment. Yes, that can leave you with your hands full, I've heard. All right, we've got Young Aviators on board as well. Hello, nice to have you with us. All right, Richard says, thanks for all your content. Last week, a guy nearby in Lake Michigan fell off his hobie and was lost solo sailing. Crikey. Does that mean lost, never to be found? Or I'm hoping that he did find his way back somehow. Again, crikey, if he was lost. Yeah, I've actually got, strangely, right in front of me, never found. Whew. Crikey, let's just right, we've got a fallen comrade who has Struth. All right, that's heavy, as is this snap shackle. This is probably a bit overkill, but yes, we have talked about having some sort of safety lanyard, like so basically, to explain this, what we do is with I think the snap shackle is the way to go, because you've got a line on here, which if we pulled it and it was under a bit of tension, it would release easily. Yes, this one is huge. This is off a yacht and is somewhat overkill for our purposes. But to be honest, when I was using this during the testing, it didn't seem too big. But this could be a literal lifesaver if you're sailing single-handed or even double-handed, sailing where, what would it be? So Lake Michigan, I'm pretty sure, is huge, so that kind of is classed as open water. But if you're sailing without any safety craft nearby, then to hook in to your boat, I think is a very good idea to clip in. And in fact, having heard that, I think when I'm going out sailing solo, even in Vassiliki Bay now, because there's not a lot of other boats around, it is quite a large area of water, and even it doesn't have to be that big an area of water to not be able to be found. Water is big. Does that make sense? But anyway, this just attached onto the harness, and then what worked, which I was really pleased with how it worked, was just to clip the loop of the main sheet and traveler through here, and just be a little bit mindful when moving around the boat, not to get it twisted around you, but it just comes with you. And that means if you do fall in, you are attached to your main sheet and traveler line constantly. And one thing that might happen, the thing that you want to happen, is just that the boat slows down, it heads up into the wind, because this might actually naturally sheet your main sheet in for you, which, if it's not mega windy, will just turn the boat up into the wind. If it is mega windy, it'll pull the main sheet in a bit, and actually the boat will capsize. But again, being with the boat, that is what is going to keep you safe. I did take one for the team and actually do a pitch pole test whilst clipped in, where I was a little bit worried that I was going to be thrown into the mast because the rope would be too short, but actually it was fine. So yes, being clipped in, very good idea. Get yourself some sort of snap shackle. Doesn't need to be as big as this. I would say even the size, one size bigger than the size that we use on the main sheet is going to be fine, big enough, just as long as you get it onto your harness. And I did a series of videos the year before last on what happens to your boat when you fall off if you're not attached. And one of the most alarming things was it's actually in really light wind, where your boat is likely just to keep sailing off indefinitely because there's not enough load in the rig to make it change the course. It's just going to keep sailing away, probably just a little bit quicker than you can swim. So you'll be swimming after it, thinking you might be catching it, but it will just be edging away very slowly. So being clipped in, if you're solo, or if you're sailing away from the land, is a good idea. Even better idea, always sail with a friend, someone on another boat if you can. I know it's not always possible, but if you can, coordinate your session with somebody else. Yeah, very, very sorry to hear that. But always, when something really bad happens, it's an eye-opener for the rest of us that, okay, what we are doing is a dangerous, hazardous activity, and we should be not treating it too lightly. Even if there's not much wind, we should still be taking it seriously and taking the necessary measures to keep us as safe as possible. Yeah, so I think these days, with these kind of waterproof cases available like this, there's no reason not to have your phone on you in the pocket of your buoyancy aid when you go sailing. And, you know, in a dry bag as well, then you're pretty safe that your phone isn't going to get damaged. Only pull it out if you either need to adjust your camera angle, or if you've fallen off your boat, or if there's something happened to your boat. If your mast come down, very handy. So you don't necessarily need this, you know, others might disagree, but you don't necessarily need to buy an expensive beacon kind of device, because your phone can be used to do the same thing. But I suppose the only time when that wouldn't work would be if you were unconscious, but then would the beacon automatically deploy? Don't know about that. I'm not so experienced with beacons. Anyway, thank you, Richard. All right, we've got Jens on board in Germany. Nice to have you with us. Glad that you're enjoying the diagrams. I think this is one of the finest that we've had, actually. All right, Ben's with us. All right, nice to have you with us, Ben. Speaking of tiller extensions, I'm ordering a new one from Malcheski Composites. I'm 6 foot tall. What length would you recommend? I would generally go with the longest one, because the only downside of the longest one is when you've let's say this is our telescopic tiller extension, when it's at its shortest length, it's going to be a little bit longer. So I'm not sure how much longer the shortest one would be, and it will be a little bit heavier as well. But the main reason for the different lengths would be at 6 foot tall, you'd be about the same. What am I trying to say? It's not like you're so tall that you'd need a really long one, even on a Hobie 16, for example. But it's worth having that longer one, because the main reason for having a longer stick would be to go onto a bigger boat. So like on a Tornado, for example, because it's wide and it's longer, it means like if you want to be helming the boat up sat next to the front beam, you're going to need more length to be able to get hold of your stick. Whereas on a smaller boat like Hobie 14, you're going to need a much shorter tiller extension, but the longest one will still do that for you. You'll just have a lot more spare extension at your disposal. So if you wanted to buy one tiller extension for life that you're just going to hold on to, take it on all the different boats that you sail, then the longest length would be the best choice, I would say. And then if you're sailing a boat which has the wings on it, like the Hobie 18 Magnum, then you definitely want the longest possible length. But yes, I would strongly recommend, if you want to get a non-original tiller extension for your boat, especially a telescopic, then the Malcheski Composites sticks are very, very nice. But my favorite one of all time is actually a fixed length Malcheski Composites tiller extension. It is so nice. It's quite a narrow gauge carbon tube, and oh, beautiful. Very nice indeed. There you go. All right, Declan's on board. Declan's got a Malcheski Composites tiller extension. I do believe I might have had it in my hand whilst sailing in the Archipelago raid. But the boathouse is now built for the winter. Sad face. But that means snow and ice is on its way. Also in Sweden, we've got Benny. Hi, Benny. Nice to have you with us. So, Declan says, it's my birthday soon. Using happy birthday in advance, by the way. Using standard mind control techniques to suggest an Insta X4 from the wife. Yes. Yeah, I think that really does look like the king of action cameras at the moment. And it's got a compact form. It's got all the features you could possibly want. It's durable enough, waterproof. It's the Insta has a really good app with it. That is why, if I wasn't already using GoPros throughout, I would definitely consider going with Insta, because the app for the Insta has got the feature that GoPro is lacking with the 360 camera, and that is tracking. So it will track really smoothly an object or a person. Whereas on the GoPro Max, the 360 camera, you have to keyframe where the person is as you change angles to keep it in the center of the shot. So I think the Insta is winning in that department. All right. So yes, mind control engaged, Insta X4, very nice. Okay, it's Hanny's birthday coming up as well. Happy birthday for Tuesday, Hanny. All right. We've got Jesse on board. Hi, Jesse. Thanks for your content. You're welcome. Saved me a lot of struggle time setting up and sailing my 1970s Hobie 14 in Albany, New York. All right, nice to know, Jesse, that it's helping. Hope that the tacking videos are gonna help as well. All right, Mr. Tony KP. It's getting colder and darker in Denmark. I've decided that it's time to de-rig the Hobie 16 this weekend. Yeah, I dare say that's the same for a lot of people. I don't know if excuse my ignorance, but I don't know if everybody has their clocks changing soon at the moment as well to the what they call it, daylight saving time, or whatever, but that doesn't help, I don't believe, so much. All right, we've got Bernhard on board. Hey, nice to have you with us. Hobie 15 and 16 with Jenica, both in winter sleep here. Yeah, it really is getting to be that time. I'm hoping to still be getting out on the water until Christmas here. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So Richard, back to the man overboard situation. If you're hooked in, wondering what the boat would do in strong winds. Sounds like it would stop in some way if you're attached to the boat. Yeah, definitely. If you're out sailing and you're not hooked in with something like this, then, and you do find, well, first thing, any wind conditions, any course, you should always be holding on to the main sheet, because you never know. Always be holding on to the main sheet. I think that is something that, if you're going sailing this weekend, always be holding on to the main sheet. If you're the crew, always be holding on to the jib sheet or spinnaker sheet, downhaul, something. But you should never be, if you're sailing with two people on the boat, with no rope in your hand. So if you're holding on to the main sheet and, for example, your trapeze snaps and you find yourself in the water, just keep holding on to that main sheet. Don't let go. We did have actually this exact thing happen during the archipelago raid, where we just started going upwind after sailing downwind for what seemed like a very long time. Declan went out on the trapeze, and almost immediately his trapeze adjuster broke. He was in the water, but thankfully he was holding on to, not sure which line it was, but it must have been either the jib sheet or the downhaul rope. And because he was holding on, meant that we didn't lose as many positions. And there in the Swedish archipelago, there was some pretty decent waves. So if I hadn't have really had my wits about me and Declan hadn't been holding on, and I'd have sailed off a little bit, it wouldn't have taken long before I wasn't able to spot him. So yeah, always be holding on to a rope, but better still, be clipped in. Yeah, there we go. Okay, where are we up to? Yeah, Yen says, yes, your diagram is beautiful. Thank you very much. And I like to think that you're a good gauge of what is a good looking diagram. All right, we got Frank on board. How rude. Yeah, YouTube is apparently now, this is, you know, I'm a big fan of YouTube, but apparently even if you pay to be a premium YouTube subscriber, like I think you is it called YouTube Premium or YouTube Plus? Even if you pay, it's like being a subscriber to Spotify or something. Then now they've started introducing adverts even for people who are paying the premium. So it's just, I suppose, their way of making a bit more cash. There we go. Yeah, sorry about the adverts. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. We've got Jens. The thumbnail picture for this live broadcast, you could take a look at it if you like. The racing machine in the thumbnail picture of the video actually is featuring Jens on the Tiger, which is in front of there's a tornado looking pretty dangerous but being beaten. So that is Jens in the thumbnail picture. All right, so who else we got? We've got Orsel Search, who's it's Tom from Ontario, Canada. Nice to have you with us, Tom. I've watched many of your videos before sailing a catamaran for the first time. Nice. In Toronto Bay. Thanks a lot for the knowledge shared. Yeah, you're very welcome. It's just so nice to know that the videos are still hitting the spot with so many people and helping with their catamaran sailing or catamaran filming, I think, which is equally important. Okay, so I'm going to come on to my next pre-loaded question, which is actually this question just got strangely came in from two different people, so I thought it definitely qualified. All questions qualified, by the way. This is from Samuel and Hellyworth, and they're just asking about the weather in the Greek islands, and I think specifically in Vassiliki, Lefkos, Greece, in September and October. Because to be honest, at the moment, October has been absolutely fantastic. It's been wall-to-wall sunshine the whole of October so far. And like today and yesterday, almost literally, that means not literally at all, but almost not a cloud in the sky. Really, really nice. Very pleasant daytime temperature. But the October downside is, even though at the moment the wind has been in the northwest, which is the direction that we want the wind to be in here to get the thermal wind, it's not, I believe the reason is it's not hot enough this time of year to really bring these thermal winds into the bay. So it has been going to our afternoon wind direction cross shore, but very light, kind of like 8 knots of wind cross shore, which is, you know, it's not hitting the big numbers, which and having been here the whole summer as well, you get to be quite a wind snob where no, it's not 14 knots, I'm not going out, kind of thing, where I know that you should just go and get it because it's a lot better than a lot of people are getting, especially at this time of year. So you should get it. Now, what about September? And don't get me wrong, October this year, absolutely lovely, delightful, but it is just as prone to weather systems as it would be in September. So it could have been raining the whole of October, but this year we just happened to have got very lucky, and it's been sunny. And the same goes for September. It really is a bit of a lottery what you get with the weather. Once you get from like mid-September onwards, it's all about what weather systems are sitting over Southern Europe. And we're getting affected by the weather systems in Northern Europe as well. And like when Jens was here for the Ionian week in September this year, I think Jens was here for that week, or maybe he wasn't. Martin was certainly here, who Martin is sailing with on the Tiger in the thumbnail. But yeah, it was a bad week for weather. It rained, I think, maybe every day, but there was storms threatening the whole time. But that's just because of the weather that was hanging over the area. So in September, you are much more likely to get the strong winds that you see in the videos on Joyrider TV. But from the middle of September, you are rolling the dice a little bit with what the general weather situation is going to be. There we go. But very nice at the moment. If you want to come out last minute just to have a nice bit of time in the Greek islands, it looks like it's going to be nice for the whole of next week as well. So not much sailing on because there's not many boats around. The yachting is still going. The Ionian Islands, very famous for yachting, where you can rent a yacht, sail around. You have a skipper if you want a skipper to do some of it for you. But there we go. All right, so back to the live chat. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So Jens and Martin are loving being in the thumbnail picture. All right. Willis is on board. Caught you live. Yes, you have. And it's great to have you back in the live. All right. Bernard says, I removed the rubber from the trampoline frame. All right. So he's talked about the sidebars on the boat, taking the rubber off. What would be the best choice to put on in the spring? Yeah. Yeah. So like the rubber grip that you get from Hobie, they call it neoprene anti-skid. It's very good. It's very hard wearing, lasts for a long time, but it's not as anti-skid as other choices that there are. The other thing with this neoprene anti-skid that you get from Hobie is you have to put your own glue on it, which I know it's not such a big issue, but it means you do need to be a bit more methodical with your process of how you're going to do it, and using masking tape to make sure you don't get glue everywhere else on the beam. And yeah, so better is to get some sort of traction with a self-adhesive already on it, where you just pull the backing off, put the new stuff on, and there you are. The material that we have been using at Wildwind in Vassiliki on all of the catamarans it's a French, I believe it's a French brand windsurfing grip called Nautics Fun Pads, which is exactly what I'm talking about. Self-adhesive rubber grip. But it's pretty good. I'd say it's pretty good. It's not perfect. Before you put anything on your boat, whether it's on the sidebars or if you want to put it on the hull, you know, if you're wanting to get into the Joyrider TV mineshaft position at the back, it's nice to have a bit of rubber grip on the hull back there. But before you put it on, you just want to make sure you've sanded the area down so that you're giving the glue as much chance as possible to adhere to the hull. But the best stuff I've come across is called HydroTurf. Sorry, I had to just go through the filing cabinets in my mind there for what it's called, the HydroTurf, which this HydroTurf, same as the Nautics, except it's actually what I've got on Bad Boy 95, and it's lasted so much better. It is from the USA, but if you want to get the best possible stuff, in my experience, it's called HydroTurf. I'll do a bit more research. Perhaps I'll put it in as a blog kind of post on the website. Website's getting updated, by the way. Oh, at this time, I'd just like to say a very big thanks to Richard for his super sticker. Very kind of you, Richard. I'm glad that what I've got here is helping. And yeah, very grateful for your donation to the cause. By the way, all support of Joyrider TV, whether it's with super stickers like Richard and Oliver have got involved in this Q&A, or if it is through Patreon, through channel memberships. If you go to totaljoyrider.com, new website coming soon, and get yourself a t-shirt like this, or you could get a custom cup to drink out of. I like mine so much that it's starting looking a little bit beaten up now, or a hoodie or a hat, anything like that. Everything goes into keeping Joyrider TV going. And I think that is a worthy cause, because I do like to think that I'm helping a lot of people around the world, and I'm helping to keep myself sailing as much as possible as well. There we go. So thanks very much, Richard. Yeah, so HydroTurf, which you could get from the USA. I will do a bit more research and see if we can sort something out. But it's really, really good. That's my last word on it. But do the preparation and it will last longer. Okay, so next one. Cameron. Hello, Cameron. Thanks for tuning in. What's a good starter cat? Been saying for years, but only monohulls. In fact, this is going to be a topic of a video. I've already got a fair few videos queued up, ready to go out. And in fact, if you're a channel member, you will have seen some of them already, because channel members get early access to the videos. But it is one of the next videos I'm going to film, actually, is it's kind of like a conversion guide. If you already sail monohulls or keel boats, which are monohulls perhaps, what do you need to know when you've just received a catamaran like a hobie, and how do I go about getting this in the water, getting it rigged, and how do I sail it and get around wherever I'm sailing, get it back to the beach, get it out of the water, put it away. So a kind of all-inclusive video for people who already sail but not catamarans. I think it's going to be very useful. But I would say, I think everybody who's been around here a bit is going to know what I'm going to say, but I would say the best choice is the Hobie 16. Now, I always feel a little bit nervous saying things like that, because I know there's a lot of people out there who don't like the Hobie 16, but the Hobie 16 is the right choice because there are the most Hobie 16s out there. So whatever your kind of your budget is for a boat, the Hobie 16 is most likely to be able to come in. You most likely to find one at that kind of price point, because even the boats from back in the 70s, they're built so well that they're still going strong, a lot of them. I have, of course, made videos on what to look for when buying a used boat. But if you did want something a bit more, I know, starter cat, you might think, really, but if you're used to sailing performance monohulls, like let's say you've used to sail a 470 and you loved having the spinnaker and all the technical stuff that goes on these sort of performance monohulls, then I would say a great starter cat to go onto from there would be a Hobie Tiger. They're really, really well built and great fun to sail, and they've got enough technical things going on. It's an F18, which means it's a wider class. Have a Hobie Tiger for a few years while you're kind of learning the ropes, pun. And then if you like the F18 kind of vibe, then get a more modern F18, which have got even higher performance. But you wouldn't want a more modern F18 right from the start, just because of the depth of the foils, more likely to hit the bottom and damage something. So there you go. That is what I think. Okay, so I've got Glubschli, maybe. Nice to have you on board in the live chat. All right, so what's the difference between a Hobie 16 and an 18? What is better to rent as a beginner? Okay, good question. So the Hobie 18 was basically designed for people who are too heavy to sail a Hobie 16. The Hobie 18 has got one extra kind of technical thing going on, which the 16 doesn't, but it balances out. And that is the 18 has got centerboards or dagger boards, which are an extra thing to have to think about. But having the centerboards or dagger boards, they're not particularly deep on an 18. So you're not that much more likely to hit the bottom. But it is something else to consider when sailing in shallow water. But what the centerboards or dagger boards will do for you is make it much easier tacking the boat. But if you've seen the tacking videos on Joyrider TV, your mental technique should already be near perfect, which means if you're not so heavy, I'd say up to about 100. This isn't to say that if you're heavier, the 16 isn't the right choice. But if you've got the choice, if you're over a combined weight of 160 kilograms, you'll have to do the conversion to pounds if you need that. Then the Hobie 18 is going to be more forgiving because the hulls have got more volume. But yeah, the 18 perhaps a little bit more. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty even, actually. Yeah, so depends on your weight. There we go. Could have just said that in the first place. All right, Frank says, I started on the Hobie 16 myself, first catamaran, then a G-Cat, then a Prindle 18. Nice. All right. So I look forward to that. Includes some wide trailering technique tips. Oh yeah. I think that would be a very interesting another video. Unfortunately for trailering at the moment, I haven't actually got a towing vehicle. So if you happen to be in the automotive trade and you'd like to send me a towing vehicle, you can have all of your logos on it, then yes, please do. That would be great. Thank you in advance. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I will try to get round to it. I've done a lot of towing, as you might expect. Some of it with an absolutely enormous trailer as well. With I think the most we ever had on was probably 10 boats, 10 catamarans, 20 hulls. Maybe it was more like 8 boats. Yeah, thinking about it. But yeah, big trailer. All right. So Benjamin says, can you recommend a writing bag? I am sailing a 16 with my daughter and we are too light with it in low wind. It only seems that they're available from the US. Yeah, my first time using a bag to write the boat was actually with a one of these big green garden waste bags that you can get from any garden shop. And that worked absolutely brilliantly. You need about 50 litres of capacity. and it needs to have strong handles. I think those are the only criteria. Yes, it's going to leak a bit of water, but by the time you get to that point, because you have it in the water full, and then when you hoist it out of the water, then it's only going to be in that position for a very short time before you've actually righted the boat. So if you can't find anything else, I think those garden bags are pretty inexpensive as well. So I would get one of those. The one that I use is from the diving brand Aqualung, which I just found somewhere. And I've been looking for them ever since. Never found one. Perhaps it's an item that I should have in the the Total Joyrider online store, is the Joyrider TV writing bag and combined whistle. I'll see what I can do. All right. So Richard says, hey, Cameron, I was sailing mono for the last 25 years. Just switched to a Hobie 16 this summer. Glad I did. Yes. All right. Oh, here we go. Benjamin says, would you consider just a watertight bag from Decathlon? I'd say if it's got strong handles, then yes. And the bag wants to be about 50 litres. There we go. All right. I'm just going to go back into the preloaded. Last one in the preloaded, by the way. This one's from Brian in response to Hobie 14 tacking. And Brian's questions are, first one, is it easier to tack with the jib? Because the Hobie 14 is available as a Hobie 14 turbo. And what the turbo means is that it has got a jib. Yes, much, much easier to tack with the jib for sure. Now, what you may ask, why is it then that that I always sail a Hobie 14 without a jib? It's because to race Hobie 14 class, the class doesn't have a jib. It's for mainsail only, which is why most people are sailing Hobie 14 just with the main. But yes, the jib will make it much easier. If you're sailing recreationally, then yeah, the jib is going to make a big difference. But work on your technique. If you put a jib on your 14, your tacking is never going to be as good as it could be. All right, second part of the question. This is really juicy, actually. This is why I'm already clearing the board, because I'm excited to talk about this. Is how does the mast rake affect the tacking? Okay, so here is our hull. Yes, it doesn't look like a Hobie 14. I think for next week, I'll try to get a few more holes made for different types of boat. I think that would be interesting and nice, in fact. All right, here's the mast. So I know quite well about this because I've experienced the effects. If we put the mast really far back, what that does is it makes the boat want to sail up into the wind more, which you may think that's great because that's what tacking is going up into the wind. Yes, you're right. But what happens is having the mast really far back means it's much more difficult for the boat to get away from the wind afterwards. So it will help us get up into the wind. Wind always comes straight down the board. It will help us come up into the wind, but we're much more likely to stall once we get there, and then we have to do the back it round and off we go. And even the off we go part is going to be more difficult with the mast further back, because the mast further back is just going to try to drive the boat back up into the wind. Now, if you want to know why having the mast further back is driving the boat into the wind, it's because what we're doing, let's have another magnetic boat here. What we're doing is mast further back is moving the center of effort further back in relation to the center of lateral resistance or pivot point. So we're putting more pressure behind the pivot point, which is pushing behind the pivot point harder, which is going to, if it pivots there, it's going to turn it more into the wind, and it's going to be more difficult to get away from the wind. So there is definitely a sweet spot for the mast rake. And I think what I'll do also, I can't remember if when I did the 14 masterclass video with Paddy Butler, the world champion, if we actually talked specifically about how much mast rake he carries on the boat. But I'll reach out to the guys who are at the top end of the fleet in the USA and find out how the mast rake is on their boats. And then I can put that forwards to the community in the future. But thanks for your questions, Brian. I hope that was helpful. All right, back to the live chat. And I think no more questions in the live chat, please. We've almost been going for an hour and a quarter, and it's the evening here. That means time for a drink. All right, we've got Ryan on board in Maui. How's it, Joyriders? Great to have you on board as always, Ryan. Willis says use a dry bag. Okay, yeah. You know, like for kayaking, keeping stuff dry. Also hold water and have some straps like a backpack. Yeah, nice. All right, Benjamin says, by the way, do you have an affiliate link for Salt City Sailing or Forward Sailing? Be great to support you through our purchases. No, I don't have any affiliate links with those guys, but if you are getting anything from anybody for your boat and it's because of seeing those products on Joyrider TV, just let them know that you found out about it on Joyrider TV, and that just means that they are going to be happy that they're supporting me by giving me equipment. But yeah, no affiliate links. I know, it's a shame, but great trampoline from Salt City Sailing. It really pops. I like it a lot. Okay, Jesse, to finish, are there any tips for Hobie? Oh dear, here we go. Hobie 14, Hobie 16, any Hobies actually. Rudder cam springs to work better. I may just need new plastic parts. I have new cams. All right. To have them work better. Just so happens I have got a rudder stock just here. Yeah, what I would do if I had an old Hobie rudder system, I would firstly take it all out. So start off by taking it off the boat, take the rudder blade and everything out of the casting, give the thing a full service. That way, you know, you're doing everything you can to make it work as well as possible. If so, in the Hobie rudder system, there's a plastic screw that goes into that hole that you can occasionally see just there. You need to undo that plastic screw with a large screwdriver. If the plastic screw doesn't turn, I've made a few videos on what to do if that happens. Just check those out. I think if you search Hobie rudder stock, rudder system, anything like that. With the new website, by the way, I'm going to have all of these videos much better arranged, so they'll be really easy to find. So my tangent here. My intention for my new website is it will become kind of like the hub of all of the catamaran knowledge you need to know, the central place where it's like, oh, I need to know about something. Rather than looking for it on YouTube, you could just come to my website. It will link to YouTube videos, yes, but it will be much better organized, because the way that like the playlists work on YouTube isn't perfect, and just trying to make things better and easier. Yeah, so take all of the stuff out of the cam system, which is all the stuff that sits in here. Remove all that. The spring is usually, there's not usually any reason to replace the spring, but certainly clean it. What else would I do? I would make sure the plunger, the part that sits in here, it's a plastic part that basically looks like a finger, make sure that moves freely up and down in there. If you find that that plunger can't move up and down freely, then that is going to stop your system from working well. So first thing I would do is try to put it in with some grease, some waterproof grease. See if that helps it to move freely up and down. If not, then clean the if immediately you know that grease isn't going to make any difference, before you put any grease on it, take a file and just file the opposing sides of the plastic plunger. So file that side and the opposing side, so they're just flattened off, and that should be enough so that it goes up and down easily in there. Then once you've done that, get the spring back in, get the screw in, or the new screw if you need a new one. Making sure again you've got some waterproof grease on there. Turn it so about half of the screw is into the thread, and then put in the new cam and just grease it all, and that is going to see you in the right direction for your rudder system working much better. Then as a starting point, once your cam is in with the screw, I would usually screw it so it's pretty flush with the casting. So the bottom of the screw is flush with the casting, and that is a good starting point to have your adjustment on the spring there. There we go. We can go into much more detail, but to be honest, the videos that I've made on the rudder servicing are very good. I would say that myself. They're very good, and you'll actually be able to see the whole process in real time, but that will do that. Okay, so just finishing off, no further questions please, because it's getting on for that time. Yeah, cheers Jesse. Hope that helps. Bernhard says, thanks for easing the pain of winter. Glad to do what I can. All right, Zombieland, aka USA, if you say so. I have a 1982 16-foot hobie. Can I take the mainsail out of the boom, lower the boom, and then pull the main down further to tighten the sail? No, I would say that's unnecessary. The process that you should have, because what you're talking about with tightening the sail is putting downhaul on. So so if here's our sail, what we're trying to do is put tension. Once it's locked up, we're putting tension downwards to put shape into the mainsail. Now, what you should be able to do is, once you've got your mainsail locked up at the top, you should then be able to put your boom into the mast track. There should be a slider at the front of the boom. If it's really tight to get the boom slider in, we'll call that the gooseneck slider. Then what you'll need to do is loosen the outhaul, which is the one underneath the boom. You could just loosen that off, then it will go into the mast much easier Then once it's in the mast, you can pull the outhaul back on a bit, and there should be a pulley system at the front bottom corner of the sail. So if this is us here, just here, there should be a pulley system. Lace that pulley system up and then use that to pull the tension into the front edge of the sail to pull it downwards. And that is what is going to give the sail its shape and make it the most efficient. Okay, I hope that helps there, Mr. Zombieland. All right. No pulley, just muscle. Okay, but we'll take your advice. Yeah, so if you haven't got a pulley there, I'd suggest getting, even if you just had one pulley at the bottom of the sail, or even, all right, let's see how we can illustrate this. Right. What we're trying to do is introduce a little bit of purchase just to make things easier. So at the bottom of your mast, here's your mast, you should have a cleat that kind of looks like this. And then if this is the boom, there should be attached to the slider that goes into the mast like this. That would be the kind of sliding part. At the bottom of that slider should be a bit that's like a fork, and then maybe there's a pin going through that fork, a clevis pin, and then in its most simple way, without having to introduce another pulley, but what's going to make a real difference is if you have a rope, start off with your rope tied through the middle of this cleat here, then go through over the pin, then back down. Then that means you've got a one-to-one pulley system effectively, which is going to make it much easier. I think it's one-to-one where we're going round one and we're pulling it once. Better is if we could put a pulley on there, a pulley block. But if you can't, just go around the pin, back down, and then pull it down. What you could do to get more on is if you actually use your main sheet, pull that really tight, that's going to pull the sail down. And then with this, you could just take up the slack. That's going to help as well. But better if we could put a pulley on here. Even better if we can put a double pulley on here and a pulley tied onto the cleat here. Then we go round, down, up, down, more. The modern boats have a 6-to-1 pulley system to make it really easy. So that would be like with a triple block at the top, triple block at the bottom. So it's getting loads of purchase to help pull the sail down. Okay, there we go. So thanks very much, everyone, for tuning in. Hope this has been informative and entertaining, and it's keeping the dream alive. Yeah, I'll do some research and get back to you. Video coming on Sunday. So do check that one out. And do check out all the videos that have gone out previously. It's always a sad time of year for me because the viewing figures just plummet once we're out of the summer, and it's really disappointing, even though the videos are of a very high quality. There we go. Thanks very much. See you soon with some more. Oh, thank you from Athens. Good to have you with us, Ted. Good to have you with us, Jim, as well. Oh, how do I replace the bushing on a Hobie Pearl board? To be honest, I don't know how the Hobie Pearl boards work. I've never actually seen a Hobie Pearl in the flesh with my own eyes. So I can't help you just now with that one. But there's going to be a way. Yeah, I'll look into it. And if I find a way, we'll talk about it next week. Thank you.